In the 1960s, there was a man who was puzzled by some surprising facts he had observed. He was intrigued by the facts that, how can people support cruel and corrupt regimes? How can they accept those rules and laws that they know only bring misery and pain? How can they blame and shame the victims for their tragedies? This phenomenon pushed him to conduct research and led him to discover the ultimate answer. The answer, that people believe that it is a fair and just world and hence rationalize that everybody gets what they deserve. And, when they are confronted with the evidence of injustice, they try to rationalize it to keep up with their beliefs. These attempts lead to disastrous conclusions. That man was Melvin J. Lerner, and the theory he proposed is now known as just world hypothesis/fallacy. It is this belief that people get what they deserve, whether good or bad. The followers of this hypothesis consider the individuals responsible for their miseries rather than their circumstances or fate. So when something tragic happens to any person, they propose that they have brought it upon themselves by their own acts and somehow deserve it. There are several downsides to this hypothesis. People who believe in this often lead themselves to horrible conclusions. For example, if anyone randomly gets selected for a prize or reward, followers of this fallacy will tend to rationalize the ways in which they deserve it, attributing it to their goodness. But this doesn't seem as ugly as the next common scenario: a girl is mugged and raped in the street. Now, this hypothesis will posit that the girl is the one to be blamed. She will be put on the blame stand for provoking the rapist and making this happen. See, this is where this hypothesis leads to ugly conclusions. People following this mindset have no idea of how diversely they are applying it in their lives. How just world hypothesis/fallacy works in real life. There are countless examples of how diversely this hypothesis is employed in the modern world. Poverty. If you are born poor, it is not your mistake, but if you die poor, it is your mistake. You might have heard this quote of Bill Gates before. It's a clear sample of just world fallacy. In the modern world, poor people are often blamed and shamed for being poor. It is widely believed that they are responsible for their poverty, like they aren't doing enough to get out of it, completely ignoring their hard circumstances. Victim shaming. Evidently, the biggest fault of just world fallacy manifests itself in victim shaming. It is a very common malpractice of society where traumatized victims are further tortured by being gaslight. This fallacy is used by people to put the blame on the victims. It promotes the line of thinking that victims deserve their horrible tragedies and they must have done something bad, turning the attention from the real culprits. This benefits the abusers who use it to save themselves. It is a fact that has been seen in numerous cases. From hate crimes against black people to victim shaming of rape victims. Just world fallacy is used to show that the fault lies with the victims and they deserve it. Conclusion. Summing up, we can say that the idea that the world is just is flawed. There are millions of people who are suffering for the acts they never committed, and they can't be blamed for it. But, the just world fallacy further aggrieves them by putting them responsible and giving a way to escape to the actual abusers.